we begin with the spotlight on the investigation and the path to justice for the victims of the Delhi riots. The horrific riots that unfolded in our national capital over a year and a half ago, in February 2020. The riots that led to over 700 cases being registered, 1,800 different people detained and arrested. But instance after instance has shown how the path to justice is getting derailed, how a poor investigation has left a series of courts unhappy with the Delhi police. In fact, when we decided to dig up into this, we found at least 12 instances, 12 different instances where the courts and various courts, from Sessions Court to the High Court, have called out the Delhi police on its quality of investigation, reprimanding the Delhi police, pulling them up again and again. In fact, just in the last 2 days, this has happened 3 times. Various courts have used words like callous, poor standard investigation, half-baked charge sheets, no effort to look for witnesses, no effort to record evidence, vague statements and allegations. This is what has been said. Yesterday, a Delhi court pulled up the police over the investigation in one of the cases linked to this and said that the cases appear to have been solved merely by filing charge sheet, as if filing charge sheet really is going to be the end destination. That no real effort has been taken to trace eyewitnesses. No real effort has been taken to trace real accused and to find the technical evidence. Lack of supervision by senior officers has been highlighted by the court. Criminal wastage of taxpayers' money and time, says the court. The court, in fact, went on to highlight that the accused persons weren't even named in the FIR, and the probe agency has tried to pull the wool over the court's eyes. And just as we were going through the details of these comments and this order, the Delhi High Court today granted bail to 5 other accused. Now, this is in reference to the murder case of the head constable, Ratan Lal, and also the injuries to the DCP during the clashes. Observing that no evidence against the accused has been given that corroborates the allegations, Delhi High Court said they can't be left to languish in jail any longer, and that it is the court's duty to also protect the personal liberty of these accused. This is the scenario, viewers. Tonight, I want to ask questions of the Delhi police and every other politician who stood up and spoke during these riots and in the aftermath of these riots, who promised support and justice. What are we doing? Are we simply going to wipe off all of that crime that took place in the national capital? I say good evening to Anuja Kapoor, spokesperson for the BJP, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate with the Supreme Court, Yashovardhan Azad, former IPS Central Information Commissioner, Sonali Chitalkar, assistant professor at Delhi University, co-author of Delhi Riots 2020, The Untold Story, and Ananya Bharadwaj, senior assistant editor with The Print. In fact, just to add to what I've said, Ananya, if you can also shed some more light on the way this investigation has progressed. And it's not just one case, of course, there were 700 cases that were filed, but way too many instances also of the courts really showing their frustration.
Right, absolutely. In fact, more than 750 cases filed, more than 1,800 accused arrested, and still we see one after the other, the cases keep falling. And if you see that the observations are similar in most of these cases, the most important thing in a case, which is the witness in most cases, are policemen. So as the court has observed today also, that they have not been able to trace the eyewitnesses in these cases. The technical evidence that has been presented in this case is also not very sound. And that we have seen in other cases, whether it is that Rajdhani school case in which the owner of the school was also granted bail with similar observations that were made. Court had also told the Delhi police that the suspicions that you have raised in the charge sheets, you're just busy filing charge sheets and there is no technical evidence that you have put forth, whether it is in forms of CCTV footages or it is the CDRs linking the accused to say this larger conspiracy that the police have been maintaining, that this entire riot was engineered and it was a large conspiracy by these group of people. So in fact, the allegations are grave, but the technical evidence to support these allegations have not been put forth by the agency. In fact, the observations, in fact, I was there myself on the second day of the riot, and I had witnessed it myself, that so many people were just running amok with lathis in their hands, and they were burning down shops, burning down vehicles. And then the police says that there is no witness in the case and only policemen have been cited as major witnesses. So these are definitely gaps when we see these kind of cases, and especially the riot cases that 53 lives were lost. And this is what the police does: file 750 cases, multiple charge sheets, supplementary charge sheets, and then says that main eyewitnesses in these cases are police officials. And one more point which I want to make here is that these police officials are not giving these statements right away. So there's a lag. So these incidents happened on 23rd, 24th. These statements of police officials are being recorded much later, 10 days after that, 11 days after the incident. And there are no DD entries that have been made in this regard. So if I'm a policeman who's witnessing an episode like this, first thing I will do is go make a DD entry of the same, which can be given in the court as proof. But that has also been a major lapse from the police's side.
Okay, thank you for highlighting some of the other, lapses that have emerged and what the courts have actually also observed. Now, Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, good evening to you. I would go ahead to even say that investigations into such ugly riots are not easy. But the Delhi police did come out and say they're using video analytics, facial recognition system, they're matching photographs with multiple databases, they're using artificial intelligence for investigation, they're relying upon credible material, scientific evidence. All of that was told to us said out loud when the investigation was going on. Somehow, that's not translating into good evidence that could convince the courts.
That's right. The video analytics and all the tech gizmos which have been used are not applicable to each and every case. Let me also add to what Ananya said, that do you know that there's a visual also of the CCTVs being disabled by the rioters, and it is also visible there of women supplying gandas. So there is a lot of video analytics there. I'll give you another example that when 9 Muslims who were found murdered in Bhagirathi River, it was a complete blind case, which was also traced by the police. And one point which you said in the beginning, Tanvi, which is very, very relevant is, and I want to again refer to Anyanya's remarks, in police riots case, it is very, very difficult to get witnesses. That is absolutely true. When riots take place in front of everyone, but there is not a single man who comes to the police station, and there is no man who wants to go to the court and give witness. So unfortunately, even the statements taken by the police of the witnesses of no value, they are not signed, as Mr. Sanjay Hagde will also affirm. It's very, very unfortunate. You see, of the 750 cases, some of them were investigated by the SIT, some by the normal police stations. But yes, it's indeed a very, very sad tale. And I think there is a lot of responsibility on a lot of issues for this, not only shoddy investigation, but also the kind of infrastructure we are talking about. We are also talking about prosecution. Because if some cases are failing, I mean, and there is a lack of evidence, and as they say, there's no prima facie evidence, then what was the prosecution doing when the charges were being framed? And what were the honorable judges doing and how they framed the charges if there was no evidence at all? So these are things, of course, we can look into later. And I'm sure Mr. Sanjay Hegde will have much more to add to all this.
Well, I think of the cases where charge sheets have been filed, charges have only been framed in 9% of those cases where charge sheets have been filed. That being said, Mr. Sanjay Hegde, is it a difficult prosecution case as well when we talk about riots? And I'm specifying that because, like Mr. Azad was highlighting, difficult to find the witnesses, difficult to get people to come on record and to speak about it. If the CCTVs were disabled, then where are you going to get the visual imagery? I mean, to the extent that the court observed that simply staring at the CCTV doesn't make you complicit in the crime that subsequently perhaps took place. So to have people on, even spotted on ground, isn't enough to say, well, they were part of this violent riot.
Well, things would not have come to this pass if there had been independent, impartial investigation. Right from the beginning, the charge against the Delhi police is not only that it was doing an indolent investigation, it was also doing a partial investigation. People who made speeches right in public, which ended up in rioting, there has been nothing filed against them, not a single charge sheet. So it was obvious that the Delhi police was looking only one way and looking to find something which would satisfy the people whom they answer to. So what did the Delhi police do? Okay, fine, we have to arrest so many people, we arrest so many people, we have to file charge sheets, we can't find evidence, whatever, we'll file the charge sheets as they are. What the Delhi police probably did not realize is that, times have changed. It's not that the old easygoing lawyers of old are there. Today, you have a young crowd of the top young minds in the country have gone into law. You have all of them forensically examining everything. And Delhi attracts the best legal talent even at the trial court stage. So whether it's Rebecca John, Tanvir Mir, or Pradeep Pais, and a whole host of very good people who are lawyers today, but who would have made their mark in any other field that they chose to put their head to. So what was done in a routine fashion, which would have worked probably elsewhere in the country, will not work anymore. And right during the time that these charge sheets were being filed and all that, it was very obvious and to anybody who knew things in Delhi that the targets were not these, not only the people in JNU, Jamia, etc. The targets were much more. There was deliberately an attempt, possibly to rope in a few much more well-known names who are in the NGO sector and all that. So if you tell your investigators that, look, these are the results I want, then they will try and make those results. But you have no guarantee that it will stand up in court. And that is what has happened. And unfortunately, the Delhi police, which had a very fine image of being a professional organization, probably lacked the leadership which would have told the political masters, sir, this is what can be done, this is what cannot be done.
Okay.
They lacked a free hand, and they are going to fall on their face in a lot of other cases.
In courtroom after courtroom, in case after case. Even the prominent ones, the prominent ones, which was one of those under the investigation by the Delhi Police Special Cell. 15 people arrested, charge sheet filed, charges yet to be framed. The IB officer's murder case, 12 people arrested, charge sheet filed, charges framed, the case is not going anywhere. The Delhi cop death case, the one that we're talking about, we referred to and picked up. I mean, even if you're not able to present a good case where a head constable of your own force has died, then what else is to be expected? That is the big question, Anuja. Then how is it that we don't ask questions on the capabilities or at least the intent of the Delhi police, and who is it that they're taking instructions from?
I totally agree from you that definitely you're going to ask the questions to the government. Who else will you ask? But here, when we talk about the Delhi police, also we are also talking about that they have filed the charges, they have filed it in the court. Now, what the problem which we are also facing and trying to figure it out is that the charges which have been there, it was been happening. The riots, as Azadji was also said, the riots when they are there, the situations are in a very adverse manner. I'm also a lawyer. We have seen that the evidences in these kind of riots, when there is a mob lynching and these kind of things happen in a very, very different fashion. And to put it forward, there was a lot of because of this CA and NRC things were happening, and things were being there to tarnish the image of BJP was the mostly thing which was been happening. Now, what High Court has figured it out is what they have it in front of them. I also, on the behalf of BJP, will demand that a proper investigation should be done. And it should be done because it is the right of every individual.
But I
Whether it
haven't
is an
heard,
accused,
Anuja, from a single person, political leader, a big name from your party, saying this publicly anywhere. It's been a year and a half.
some things,
At least a dozen
yeah.
instances where the courts have been really angry and have questioned almost every aspect of the investigation by the Delhi police. Not a single comment from the BJP.
Look, what happens is that the comments are there. There are sometimes they are being misinterpreted, they're misjudged. This is the way I am saying something right now. I would be misjudged and misinterpreted, but I'm saying in a good humor. And I'm saying that they should have been taken it up. And we also demand that a fair justice should be, a natural justice should be provided. And it should be taken up by the Commissioner of Police. And they should look into this, that why and how the investigation was not done correctly, if it is there, and if the High Court pulls it up. So it has to be done, that because we also want, who were those, the ones who were accused, who were those who were tarnishing the image of the BJP. They were very anti-nationalists which were there. We also want answers. And if court feels that the charge sheet was not up to the mark, this should have been done. And we have many investigation agency related scientific method. And what is it that was lagged behind? And definitely, I just want to say to Haji that so it is no political people are coming in between the investigation and the police. I'm sorry, because you don't have any evidence on this. And just saying it here by telling that the political people are trying to put it maligning some other people and they are trying to stop this investigation. I'm sorry, law is above all and for everybody. Political people are also under the ambit of the law and the constitution falls for each one. So even we are also asking in this mirror now, sitting here, that we also demand for a fair justice.
Well, I can tell you this, maybe, Anuja Kapoor, if you believe that, you may be one of those very few people in this country who believe that police forces in our country act independently and carry out investigations independently, where there is so much at stake. But I want to pick up on what you said and take it across to Sonali Chitalkar. Could this be a problem, Sonali Chitalkar, that the big demand, the big noise that was created was to find out who tarnished the image, who provoked people, not really to find out who killed those 58 people who died in this riot and who actually led to destruction of hundreds of homes that were burnt down, rendering people homeless?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that was the core idea. I would like to just see, we went to ground as a team looking at the riot areas, riot affected areas. And I would, go with what Yashovardhan ji has said, that yes, the people we met, they told us that yes, CCTV cameras were destroyed. There was a very large scale, a very well planned, attempt to, make sure that CCTVs are not functional. So having said that, I also go with Yashovardhanji when he says that in a riot kind of a situation, it is difficult to get witnesses. It is difficult to get video evidence. We have seen, all of us have, these are videos in the public domain. So it's like Constable Ratan Lal, we can see him being lynched, okay? Now, how the investigation in this case shapes out, the courts demand evidence, and yes, investigation from the Delhi police could have been better. That is that's a position we can take, but we should also appreciate that in that very site in Bhajanpura, we had spoken to people. They told us just across the road where Constable Ratan Lal was lynched, they told us that the crowd came and destroyed the CCTV cameras. So I would add on to his voice. These are difficult cases. Not to say that they cannot be investigated or they cannot be investigated in a better way. I would also like to say that this is not the first time that we have in this country any major incident being questioned on the basis of investigation. We all know who killed Jessica. No one killed Jessica. Okay, so these kind of this synergy, or this dynamic between the court and the police, it goes on. I would be also pitching in to say that yes, as citizens of this country, we all want a better investigation into the riot that affected our capital in a very hideous kind of a way. It was
what are you saying, that it's just difficult and they can't find the evidence simply because the CCTVs across the board were broken by a bunch of people? So we can't expect justice in cases where even policemen have been killed, to find the actual truth of how it took place? Because the court says when history will look back at the worst communal riots since partition in the national capital, it is the failure of the investigating agency to conduct proper investigation by using latest scientific methods that will surely torment the sentinels of democracy. The CCTVs were broken, but I very clearly remember, Mr. Sanjay Hegde, there were drones that were flying all around in that area at that time. Now, I'm not saying a drone evidence perhaps can turn the case on its head. I'm simply saying, is that what it boils down to in riot investigation cases and prosecution? That how did we prove it in absence of CCTVs, which is only something that's happened for us in the past decade?
You prove it by evidence, and if the policeman wants to do it scientifically, there's nothing which prevents it. See, all that which was required to be done, if you had drone evidence, you know who the suspects are, you know who the witnesses are. You also, and today where everybody carries a mobile phone, CDR records come in. Now, what really goes wrong in all these cases is, and I include past cases also, where the police tries to rope in everyone without going through the exercise of finding out, is there evidence enough against that man? Should we take this case to a prosecution, and is the prosecution likely to succeed? They much rather prefer to put in an undigested mass of witness statements, charts. Okay, this man's name, there is this witness who says it, and let it fly in the court. When the witness supporting it, or it doesn't turn up, when the technical evidence doesn't add up, when questions are asked by good defense lawyers, as the defense is entitled to ask, they all look like boys who have not done their homework. It is time for the police to A, pull up their socks on investigation, B, take a conscious call that we will do a fair investigation. The moment you do a fair investigation, witnesses will come up. If you want to do an investigation where witnesses will say what you want to say, then witnesses will run away from the police. So there has to be a change in culture as well. And despite what my fellow panelists say, this was not a one-way riot. If you do not prosecute both sides, your impartiality is suspect right from the beginning, and your cases will fail.
This is something
Of
that the
course,
Delhi court
in the
itself, Mr.
meanwhile-
Hegde. Yes. Yes, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yes. In the meanwhile, there will be people who will have spent years as under trials, who will finally have be released for want of evidence, who will have court judgments saying that they are innocent, but they will not get their lives back. If investigations are tainted with a prejudged notion, or are going to be based on what the 9 o'clock news says on some shouting channel or the other, if your charge sheets look like scripts from those channels, then they will fail. Be professional. That's all I want to say to the Delhi police.
Here are some more examples, and these examples, I'm only hiding more and more of them because I want people to know what a mess has been made out of this. Just a week ago, another Delhi court pulled up the Delhi police for not knowing for 9 months. They were actually investigating a case. Delhi police filed so many cases that some of them they forgot about. And the court actually was shocked over this. So from a year ago...
Tanvi, just 1 minute.
Yes.
1 minute, 1 minute. The thing is that we lawyers have a saying that if you tell the truth all the time, you will never need to remember what you said the first time. If you file lots of charge sheets, lots of FIRs on the same incident and try to cook up stuff against each other, they will contradict each other and they will all die in the court.
Okay, all of our panelists
Keep your
want to
story
make,
simple and
for basis
focused.
what you have said and I said earlier, all of our panelists want to come in here and make a point. I'll go around one by one. First up, let me go across to Ananya. She wanted to add to what was being said earlier.
Since we are talking about examples, Tanvi, there was another very relevant example of an attempt to murder case which was registered against one Imran and Babu. And the attempt to murder was against one person called Rahul, whose statement was not even on record. So the court asked that, who is this person who these people wanted to kill? And this person is some Rahul whose statement was not even recorded by the police. So these are the kind of cases that we are looking at. It's a bulk, 755 cases. So each one of it is being charge sheeted. Then there are supplementary charge sheets. So it's like, a complete a bag full of cases in which one by one charge sheets are being filed when there is no real evidence, or there are as Mr. Hegde correctly pointed out, that the homework has not been done. And we are talking about 2019-20. We are not talking about the 80s. Now everybody has a cell phone. So it is a very, very, probably a very bad excuse, I would say, that all the CCTV cameras were damaged and, in these matters, eyewitnesses don't come forward. We are talking about crowd here. We are talking about so many videos that were being circulated. We are talking about so many people involved. So if the police really wanted, since I've seen investigations, I've seen good investigations also, it's really hard to believe that police could not find sound technical evidence, sound videos that would show people, could identify people, could trace people down and charge sheet them and record their statements and do their job thoroughly. So it's very, very hard to believe that in this age and time.
Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, do you disagree to that?
No, I may not have seen so many cases as Ms. Bharadwaj have seen, but I can certainly say that in the case of Ratan Lal's murder and the attack on the SP, what the panelists have been talking about are very, very basic things. That is analyzing the dump data or checking through the mobile screens or going through the drone evidence or going through the CCTV. We have outstanding men, and I'm not from the Delhi police, but I have met them and I've seen them. You have outstanding men in MSc electronics and all that. You think for the murder of their own officer, they will not collect evidence? They will go out of their way. I have told you that even cases you're saying it is one-sided. It may be one-sided. In every society, a particular portion of the people are compromised. But that does not mean that the entire system is compromised. In the case of the attack on the DCP all this technical evidence was gathered. And why should they be sloppy about it? To tell you very frankly, from what I got from some of the people, all this were recorded. The conspiracy case was also recorded like this with basic forensic backup. But then, in the case of that particular shop, when the rioting took place, the CCTV was actually disabled, and therefore there were no forensics. What would be the interest of the police not to do it? And mind you, this is a bogus, idea which people have, that in every particular case, a politician rings up police that, you cannot investigate like this and you cannot. There might be 1% case where they are involved. It's a kind of a narrative. It's a kind of a direction. And then it depends on the people how to do it. But these are basic cases. You could talk about politicians making statements and then a case was not registered. That's all right. But in individual cases, you don't need this kind of an interference. So I think it's about time we should, set a few things right. Yes, it was shoddy investigation, but to put a criminal intent behind it, that's not fair.
No, so you say that, in the case of, for example, the head constable itself, there is so much of evidence which is very clear, which can be picked up. But that's what has happened today, Mr. Azad. Then why is it happening that today the court has had to give bail to 5 people claiming vague evidence and general allegations?
Sometimes the best evidence which you put on the basis of the forensics itself may not be good enough. May not be good enough. So it doesn't mean that you question the intent. And I'm giving you a live case. It's their own case. Do you think they would like to do shoddy evidence? They make shoddy evidence? Would you make me believe they're doing a wrong investigation? No, they won't.
If the intent is to simply go out there right in the beginning, in the first 1 week and 10 days and make a statement by simply filing 700 cases, cut, copying, pasting the charges, and then, there are claims in the charge sheet, naming the people as you see them and putting them behind bars, then you've lost valuable time, actually, important time in building a credible case. And then you can struggle as much as you want. I am simply quoting from what the court has said. Okay, they say video footage at the crime scene cannot be relied upon. It's grainy, it's unclear. Maybe it's clearer to the panelists here. It was unclear to the court to at least decide on whether it's the same people or not. Court went on to say that the clothes may be similar to the petitioner, but they are worn by so many other people. Just to say, okay, they were dressed in a similar outfit doesn't mean it was necessarily them. Call records data that was submitted was inconclusive. Video of man hiding a stick doesn't justify a continued jail term in this case. I am simply pointing out what has been said. I will also highlight, for the benefit of everybody on this panel and our viewers, that these are simply observations that were made basis which bail has been granted. In this specific case of the head constable's death, people have not been acquitted. But there was another case yesterday where 3 people were discharged of their charges that were filed against them for lack of evidence. So that case is gone. People are actually now being let off for lack of evidence as well. Mr. Sanjay Hegde, and then we'll go across to Anuja. Yes, Mr. Hegde.
In the case where bail was granted, one of the factors was that in the teeth of several Supreme Court judgments,
yes,
the police insisted on filing 4 or 5 FIRs with regard to the same set of transactions. If the police shoot themselves in the foot, what else is to be done? Okay, I won't attribute malice. I can certainly attribute stupidity.
Okay, fair point. But if you actually dig your own grave, then where else will you go? Anuja, would you want to respond here? You wanted to defend the actions of Delhi police.
So I totally go with Azad ji, and I believe that because, as I keep on telling that I am also a lawyer, there are many times when we file cases in the court. From our side, we feel that this is the whole evidence which we are putting up. But depending upon what the court also sees that thing is as an evidence or not, that is also a question. One thing which I keep telling, one more thing is that you have seen that there were many police officials were also killed in that riots. And again, in the same way what Azadji was saying, do you think they will do it a shady investigation for their own people? Thirdly, I just took out a data. You're all saying that the police does not work. Okay, in this case, if you're saying, court is saying, what happens when we all give the evidences and then there are times in Nirbhaya case also, Delhi police did its work. Please don't malign Delhi police every time. They are the only ones who are also protecting us also. So I'm not here to defend anybody, but I'm trying to say that please don't put a mens rea here every time. It can be an intensity of the guilty mind, but it is not that they have an intention to do something. The evidence of the court is related to the court. The work of the police is to bring the things on the record. If the court feels that it is not the record, it will not come into it. Now, if I say that in 2020 and 2019, you could 3 lakh cases were being there related to the criminal offenses. But in 2020, 2 lakh cases related to the criminal offenses were came. So it is not that the people are the cases which are coming up, but they're not being handled by Delhi police. This is what you're trying to say? That is a zero efficiency?
I am not trying to say 12 in 12 different instances, Anuja, in 12 different instances, the courts have said it. I am not trying to say anything. I am simply relaying to you what the courts have said, what judge after judge after judge in different cases linked to Delhi riots has said. And please, don't make it a generic comment. I don't like blanket statements either. I am not sitting here and saying all of Delhi police has been bad and inefficient and corrupt for the last 30 years. I'm simply saying when it comes to this specific incident, ma'am, when it comes to this specific incident, where is the justice? Why are you not as angry as I am today? Where is the justice? Over 50 people died. Hundreds of them were rendered homeless. If you care so much about the image of this country and the image of the national capital and the image of so-called politicians, at least be angry for that. Where is the justice in any case? The Delhi police has leaked identities.
Allow me to speak.
The Delhi police, allow me to finish. The Delhi police has leaked identities of key eyewitnesses and turned around and said, oops, sorry, my mistake. By mistake, we attached the names and addresses of key witnesses in the case in the charge sheet and made it public and gave it to everybody. That is what has happened in this case.
Witnesses.
Protected witnesses whose identities had to be protected for their safety of their lives. The Delhi police has been indicted by the courts. Let me finish. You asked me a question. Why are we blaming the Delhi police? I am not. The courts are. The courts have actually pulled up the Delhi police for cutting, copying, pasting the same allegations and simply changing the names.
From the witnesses. This is what you are saying, that we people, the BJP officials, called Delhi police categorically and told them to take off the witnesses, and they were standing there, they were looking into all the charge sheet and they asked him to take this thing off.
Why should the government not ask questions and make Delhi police responsible for the mess they have created if you haven't? If you haven't,
does not make sense.
If you haven't given instructions, make them accountable.
Come in between. I've already asked for the fair and natural justice.
Asking for a fair and just investigation on Miranau's panel is not going to help, Anuja. Your politicians and your leaders and your ministers have to ask the Delhi police and the Delhi police commissioner and ask the senior police officials responsible for these investigations. How else will it take place?
They have also been doing tremendous job in their own fields, and they have been protecting us in many, many arenas. There were times when you guys have already saluted them. But there are times when these kind of flaws happen. We don't know what the investigation had led them, what were the evidences which were there in the court, and what happened in the court that the court does not see those evidences up to the mark. Of course, there can be investigation again and they can do this. There is not a dead end. As you have said, that it is all related to the bail. And things happen. You see in Talwar case, you see in this case, even CBI you're talking, everything is there. So I'm not saying that things don't happen. They are the only ones who did it.
The failures of the past cannot be a justification for continued failures for any investigating agency or for any individual or institution either. Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, my last question to you. Simply put, obviously there are many more cases to go, but 1.5 years later, is there a way to actually go back and fix the Shoddy investigation?
Well, many things can be fixed at this stage, and I'm sure they'll be already doing it because once the courts are pointing out the maladies and the deficiencies, this will be a pointer for the future. And I just hope that the prosecution is also very, very alert in prosecuting the cases. And the present commissioner will look into this and see that whatever corrections can be made, it should be.
Okay, I am going completely out of time. I'm going to thank all of the panelists for joining us and sharing their views. It's very plain and simple, viewers. I don't care about the politics around it. I don't care about the political narrative, about the rhetorics. I do care about the homes that were destroyed, the lives that were destroyed. I don't even want to go into the religion of the victims in this riot. Both sides suffered in this communal riot. Both sides suffered. And if both sides suffered, then there are those from both sides who were involved in this violence that led to loss of lives and destruction of property. The only thing that one expects from a premier police force, especially when it is the police force of our national capital, is to do a good job out of the investigation. If in the national capital of our country, such horrid violence unfolds in front of the eyes of the entire world, and we claim to have all the high technology at our doorstep, then why is it that in case after case, the frustration of the courts is becoming visible? Ludicrous, preposterous, callous, shoddy, vague. These are the kind of words that the courts have used. I am not using these terms, but I will be extremely angry to see what is going on. A court yesterday said, what a waste of time and taxpayers' money. This is not justice. Why should it not make every single citizen of our country angry about the way these investigations are being carried out? Keep the rhetorics aside. Find the facts and deliver justice to the victims of that violence. That's all that matters. Thank you for joining us.